Just 2 minutes behind schedule. That's not bad. Thank you all again for coming. I neglected to thank the Newton High School for allowing us to have this debate in the auditorium here. They have a very nice facility for us. My name again is Bruce Tomlinson, Executive Editor of the New Jersey Herald. I'm going to introduce the moderator for the second debate, which is for candidates for the Assembly, 24th District. Rob Jennings. He is a reporter with the New Jersey Herald and covers politics for the most part for us. He will explain the format. If you were not here on the first debate and you have your phone still going to play root for the home team or something, please turn it to silent or vibrate. That would be appreciated. This is live streaming on njherald.com right now. It'll be available there for replay. It's also being taped by Service Electric, and it'll be available several times on their channels. And we'll publish that in the New Jersey Herald as well. So we'll get going right away, and Rob Jennings.
Okay. All right, thank you, Bruce. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And again, thank you to Newton High School for allowing us to be here tonight. Just want to introduce the candidates from left to right. We have Assemblyman Parker Space, Republican candidate for Assembly in the 24th District. Michael Grace, a Democrat, member of the Stillwater School Board. Jacqueline Stable, also a Democratic candidate for Assembly. Kenneth Collins of the Green Party. And freeholder Gail Phoebus, also a Republican candidate. Thanks for being here tonight. Now, for those of you who didn't see the first debate tonight, I just wanted to go over the format here. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute opening statement and a 1 minute closing statement. Order will be determined at random prior to start of the event. We're starting with Assemblyman Space. The questions were developed by the New Jersey Herald staff with suggestions from the general public, and that kind of comprises the questions we have tonight for the most part. Respondents will have 1 minute to answer. All of the candidates will have the opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal, and the original respondent will have 30 seconds for re-rebuttal, which means the toughest job tonight is Warren, who's keeping track of the time. The idea is to kind of cover several topics, but we will allow some extended time if the issue merits it, or if you want to keep going further. You know, we can go on all night. Just keep in mind World Series game starts in about an hour. So with that, we wanted to open it up, and we drew order to see who would go first, and we have the 1 minute opening statements, and we'll start with you, Assemblyman Space.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and especially to the New Jersey Herald for hosting it. My name is Parker Space. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a third-generation business owner in Sussex County. My son works for us full-time. He's going to be the fourth. My wife, Jill's out here in the audience, and also my mother, my mom. I'm seeing her. But a big part of it is with service to the community, which I've served on many different boards, coming up through living in Wantage Township my entire lifetime, and also being the 13th generation to live in Sussex County. Served on the planning board and the land use board, Wantage Township Committee, and under the freeholder board, and also volunteerism into the community. I've served over 26 years on the Wantage Fire Department, served as chief in the fire department, and in 2013, when I went into the state assembly, after Gary Chisano left and went to become the county surrogate, that's where I started hard work with Allison and Senator Oroho over here sitting in the back. But one of the big things that I try to strive for is sustainability, reducing property taxes, and we'll go a little bit further later. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Grace.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Michael Grace, and I'm running to be your Assembly candidate. For too long, Trenton has ignored this district, and I'm saying no more to that. This year, there has never been a clearer choice or a chance to change that dynamic. Jackie Staple and I are the only candidates who are offering real solutions to the very real issues that we face. Our proposal for a 50% reduction in property taxes is to fund our schools fairly and not on the back of homeowners. A reduction in rural small business taxes. Rural enterprise zones. They worked in the urban areas, now it's our turn. Protecting our farms by making the large corporations look to our New Jersey agribusinesses first before they can look out of state. We believe in fiscal honesty, taking the old worn-out phrase of fiscal responsibility to a higher level, not being held responsible to some special interest group. I believe this district deserves representatives who will truly represent the people, because I believe our voices need to be heard, and Trenton has to listen. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Stable.
Thank you, Rob. My name is Jackie Staple. I'm running for State Assembly this year along with Michael Grace. Like Michael said, one of our top issues this year is property tax reduction. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get into our plan. I was born and raised in Sussex County, and I have 5 children with my husband, Ryan. I lost my father last year, and it was actually on Election Day, which got me thinking about some of the things that he had brought me up to talk about, taxes and jobs in the county. He always wanted us to work local so we'd have more time with our families. So Michael and I are running on a number of issues this year. One of them is funding all of the pensions, including the teachers, the police, the firefighters, less testing for our children in schools, readdressing school funding to lower property taxes 50%, to spread the burden onto all taxpayers. Rural small business enterprise zones, like Michael mentioned. I want the 24th District to flourish again for everyone, not just the millionaires and large businesses. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Collins?
Good evening. I'm Kenny Collins, and I am the Green Party candidate for State Assembly in District 24. For far too long, the citizens of our district have been disenfranchised by a one-sided political system rife with cronyism and nepotism, a system run by business people who serve their own interests and those of other wealthy business people. I am not a wealthy business owner. I'm a working man, and my focus will be on the concerns of the working class as well as those of business owners. I want to reduce property taxes by changing the ways we pay for education. I want to increase the minimum wage and reduce poverty. I want to protect fellow veterans and seniors from skyrocketing prescription drug costs by stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership and making New Jersey a TPP-free zone. I want to stop water infrastructure privatization and domestic energy exportation. I want to ban hydraulic fracturing, fracking waste, and injection well disposal, and protect your rights to clean air, soil, and water. I want to protect our children from becoming victims of the heroin epidemic by providing priority treatment without court order. I'm running to give voters a choice because it is time for a political revolution, and that revolution starts now with your vote for Collins.
Yes, Freelder Phoebus?
I want to thank the New Jersey Herald and everyone for attending tonight's debate. I am running for the 24th District Assembly seat with my running mate, Parker Space. I've been a Sussex County resident since 1957, graduate of Newton High School and Centenary College in Warren County. I'm a small business owner with my husband, Bob. Farmstead's been a family business since 1961. We believe in pay-as-you-go and not to get yourself in debt. We know how hard it is to own and operate a small business. We know what it is like to comply with every added government regulation and to pay higher and higher taxes. I am a gun owner and strongly believe in the Second Amendment. My husband and my son-in-law are avid hunters. The sportsman community is very important to the economics of a rural area. In 2006, I was elected to Andover Township Committee. I served as mayor. I was a founding member of the Economic Development Committee. I was elected to the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders in 2012. I cover many different areas in the county government. I support lowering property taxes, reform school funding, and encouraging economic growth. And I want to say, go Mets!
Okay, and thank you. And again, these questions are directed at individual candidates, but they're kind of intended to be general, that anybody can respond to it if they want. So again, the first question is chosen randomly is for Assemblyman Space, and this is a question I kind of decided to add based on an interesting exchange at the county freeholder debate that just happened that kind of raised a state issue in many ways on the topic of drug abuse, drug addiction, and whether or not it's a sickness. And this has been something that Governor Christie has prioritized. He had an exchange with Rand Paul about a month ago when Governor Christie had said that in his view, drug addiction is a disease, there but for the grace of God go I. He's talked about having the state make it more of a priority. So I was wondering about your view in terms of what the state of New Jersey can do in terms of targeting drug addiction and drug treatment.
I know in the last several years, there's been around 21 different bills or nonpartisan bills that have came through the state legislature where everybody realized there's a need to work on it with more intervention and than actual incarceration on issues like that. I believe 6 of them have passed so far, went through, both houses and been signed into law by the governor. So we're actively working on it. We know there's an issue. Obviously in Sussex County, listen to the freeholder debate. It's in rural areas where years ago you never thought it would be. So we're taking a lead on it and we're trying to intercept it.
Does anybody else want to weigh in on that? Yes.
I want to speak to the fact that drug addiction and alcohol addiction is definitely a disease. I can't believe we're even questioning that in this day. That was something that was thought about long, long time ago. It's a disease, and it's also a disease that affects the whole family. We have to treat the whole family, and I think it's not just a county problem, it's a state problem, and it's a federal problem, and it should fall under the New Health Care Act for the support of rehabilitation.
Yeah.
This is my niece, Brandy Lynn Lozal. She died of a heroin overdose at the age of 16. I propose that we pass a law in the State Assembly called Brandy's Law. The reason my niece died is because she went to Daytop, a place that Chris Christie likes to tout as a success. Daytop told her she could leave whenever she wanted to. We need to provide the proper care for heroin-addicted children, make it a priority, and make sure they don't need a court order to get them the help they need.
I absolutely 100% support Brandy's Law. I've mentioned this to Kenny numerous times. This is something that's close to my family's heart as well. I've seen numerous people I graduated with fall into the pattern of it starts out with a couple pills here or there, and it blows up into a full-blown heroin addiction. Sunrise House is no longer accepting Sussex County patients as a priority. They're moving on to people that can pay, and that's the way it's going. You know, as far as getting private companies in to take care of this issue, I don't see that fully being acceptable for Sussex County. We need to do something at the state level to get funding to the rural districts so that we have as much of as many facilities as they do in the rural areas. Sorry.
Okay. And Senator Space, did you want to add anything to your remarks?
Well, do you mind if I?
Yeah, sure. Oh.
The recidivism rate is astronomical because we have a prison-first mentality for those on first-time drug offenders, even second and third-time drug offenders. We keep throwing them back into the prison system. The prison system itself has been privatized. It's been moving in that direction. We need to look at treatment from the get-go, as everyone up here is in the same concurrence. The incarceration or the war on drugs has only facilitated the problem that we're facing up here, and we don't get the representation or the accountability from Trenton to our district.
I think just to rebut that, as I mentioned before, it was a nonpartisan issue that goes through in Trenton, so it's not a point where, you know, it's a Republican or Democrat area. Everybody's working together with the programs. There's a lot of communication with the freeholder boards and the different agencies to make sure this is going to go into effect and help the residents of the county, wherever it might be in the state of New Jersey. So we're definitely proactive on it, and we're working on it, and we're making a difference on it. And like I said, it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican issue, which I think you guys are trying to like separate it on. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for the responses. Again, that was an issue that came up at the county freeholder debate, but I thought it was worth addressing here. And I just got to note that apparently you all need to bring your microphones a little closer if possible when answering the question. So the next question would be for Mr. Grace, and this kind of segues into a lot of the topics that our readers brought up that we wanted to kind of expand upon a bit in the questions. The biggest issue to many in New Jersey is property taxes. And the biggest portion of that are your school taxes. Now, you have been talking, and your running mate have been talking about this dedicated income tax rather than property taxes, which you say would lower property taxes, ease the state's budget problems. Your Republican opponents have talked about more of a plan that would redistribute the funding towards more of the rural districts as opposed to the current system that is now. So I wanted you to maybe just expand a bit on what your thinking is on this, and all the other candidates can weigh in as well.
Well, from an economist perspective, the way we fund schools is broken. It's unfair. It places too high a burden on property owners, especially homeowners. There are 1.7 million homeowners in the state of New Jersey, and there's over 6.1 million taxpayers. The law of large numbers applies in this particular case. So if we were just to spread that out amongst the 6.1 million taxpayers, everybody would have to carry part of the share of the burden of education. Education for too long has been considered just a property owner issue, that the homeowners in that particular community are the ones that are responsible for the schools. But a well-educated workforce, a well-educated populace, a well-educated society benefits the entire state. It's not just a property owner issue. It is an entire community and state issue. By changing the way we actually do this, it brings everybody in, and it makes people accountable. I have found in my time on the school boards and in other operations on Wall Street as part of committees, that when you have a stake in something, you're more likely to show up. If you have $100 taken out of your check a year, as opposed to nothing, you're probably going to show up and make some noise about it. And that's where we get most of this idea to sell from, because it actually makes people accountable.
One of the things Michael didn't touch on is, yeah, we want to spread this to all taxpayers in the state of New Jersey. And a lot of people have said, well, that's an undue burden on renters. It really isn't. The way it would work is the governor has gotten rid of the renter's rebate. We would know exactly how much landlords would be saving on their property taxes. We would then be able to spread that out and give that back to the renters. This is something that basically all it is doing is taking it from property owners and spreading it to the entire state. Honestly, if we do something like fair school funding, a lot of the schools in the rural districts are going to lose funding because we're going to be cutting it. It's going to be the same amount per pupil. A lot of the schools in this area receive more than the amount that would be given out on a per pupil basis for fair school funding. I don't think that's the way to go.
I think we need to reduce the bureaucracy of the school boards that are a major drain on the funds that are intended to educate but go to pay the school boards. And I think we also need to think of out-of-the-box ways to provide additional funds for education, such as a tax on internet connections that would spread out it would take the burden off of the average homeowner. And I also think that New Jersey should really take a good look at legalizing marijuana and taxing it and using the funds from that to pay for school education. Colorado has had a great success and brought in a tremendous amount of money with their initiative, and I think we need something like that.
Do you have a cost estimate on how much revenues that would generate?
I'm not sure how much revenue it would generate. It would be different than Colorado, obviously, but it would generate a lot of money.
Ms. Freeholder-Phoebus?
Okay. I believe that we do not need to create any new taxes. I don't quite understand their plan. One point they're going to have a renter's tax, then it's going to be an income tax. We don't need new taxes. The money is there. It's from the state income tax and also 1% from the sales tax. It's the matter of how it's distributed. We do not need to distribute it under the 31 counties of the 60% of that money that goes to the Abbott school districts. This was done in 1985. It's 30 years old, folks. We need to get the funding straightened out. It's not the amount of money that needs to be collected. It's there. It's how we then decide how to fund it. And I do believe the fair way to fund it would be to divide that pot up among each student that's in the state through K through 12th grade, and then also look at the fact that you have to tweak that to some degree, but I believe it's the way that it is distributed, not you don't need a new tax.
Okay, anybody else want to address that? Yes.
I know at the last debate we were talking about, too, with the fair school funding, we had a few issues on it. We just ran some numbers before, and especially just take, for example, it's like High Point Regional High School, which is around 19,000. We use that as it's a send-in district. There's 5 different towns that go into it. It was around 19,000 per child to educate them. The state right now gives them $6,400 roughly. With the fair school funding, which we ran through Senator Doherty's office and found that the average number that it would be if it was evenly distributed throughout the state would be around $9,800, with a total of around $3,300, $3,400 coming in per child to each district. That would save around $3 million for High Point, $3 million alone at High Point High School for over 1,000 kids enrolled. So that would definitely be a property tax reduction
Exactly.
that we can stand by. We know that will be proven to work.
Exactly.
That's not, on all deference to both of my Republican colleagues here, that's not what the plan is about. And with Doherty's plan, it doesn't actually save money. It takes money out of the school systems and redistributes it back to the urban districts. What Ms. Freeholder-Phoebus is talking about here is obviously she doesn't like the idea, what they call in economics, she seems to be in favor of free riding, that those that don't have to pay their fair share. And if there's no incentive to own property because you're free riding, then why would you? And if that's the case, that's a collective idea, and that's kind of Marxist in a sense. I think everybody should have to pay their fair share. And looking in that respect, I don't see how that actually makes sense in what she's talking about.
I'm assuming you might want to respond
So you
to that.
want to tax the renters, is what I understand, which means you want to tax the most fragile people in this county, and in Warren County, and in Mount Olive, which is your seniors, which is your single people that are trying to get on their own, which is also your single parents. But you have to remember that they're already paying tax. Their rent is based on their landlord's tax that they're paying. So you're just wanting to increase a tax. But then I read where it's not that at all. I read that you're looking at increasing the income tax. So I just don't believe that we need any tax increase to be able to fund the schools in a better way.
I don't think tax cut is tax increase. You wanted a redistribution plan. It's similar, but mine is actually fair. It actually works across the entire spectrum of the population. Yours just basically hurts people in the end. I believe that everybody should have to carry their own weight. They should have to be part and parcel to what's going, to their own education. And everybody in the state has to have a stake in this. And it shouldn't be on the backs of homeowners and the elderly. If it's distributed correctly, if it's taxed correctly, and the legislature and the governor can't get their hands on it, then that funding stays. And if it's $100 out of somebody who rents a year, then that's so be it. They should have to be paying into the system.
Yeah. We can keep going with this if you all had wanted to add any more to it. Okay, one more point? Yeah.
My point that I just wanted to make to Ms. Phoebus, because she doesn't seem to understand the plan, is that when I talk about the renter's rebate, it would be the amount that the landlords would not be paying. So say a landlord is saving $5,000 on their property taxes, that can then, on a per-person basis, be evaluated and redistributed to those tenants. So in a way, it would be on an income basis. It would be based upon how much you make, so it's not going to be an unfair burden on the lower class. It's not going to be an unfair burden on really anyone, and for most cases, it would be a wash. On the percentage of the population that makes a higher income, yeah, they're probably going to be paying a little more than they save in their property taxes. That's about how it works.
Yes.
The only thing I want to reinstate is with the plan that Gail and I are working on, along with Senator Orho. It's a common sense, it's easy plan, it's easy to figure out, it's going to distribute out for the rural communities, it's going to make a difference. Like I said, that's just High Point High School alone. It'll be over $3 million per year would be coming back in. And as far as the renter's tax, as Gail had mentioned before, a lot of young people, a lot of the older people, they're not going to be able to have another tax or afford it. And I'm sure you can testify to that, paying your rent. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that extended exchange. That was insightful, and I appreciate it. Next question is for Jackie Staple. You touched on kind of an issue at the Ogdensburg Candidates Night that provoked a lot of spirited discussion afterwards, where you had alleged that this district is not taken particularly seriously in Trenton because of some votes perhaps cast by the incumbents or other issues. And I know there was a lot of back and forth over what you said you meant or what people thought you meant or how people took it. So I want to give you a chance to kind of explain what you meant to say there, and perhaps give others a chance to respond to your perception of how this district is seen in Trenton.
Sure. Thank you, Rob. That is something that I definitely wanted to address tonight. Maybe it was my phrasing that was misunderstood. When I speak with my friends who live outside of the district, the people that are not in Sussex County, and honestly all of Warren County, anyone that doesn't live in the rural districts of New Jersey, they look at us as people in rural districts. They don't have a high opinion of us. They don't think that we're intelligent, and that has nothing to do with our representatives. That is, they're looking at us as a rural district, as a rural county. And anyone that has ever spoken with anyone outside of this county knows that. It's what has been said to me as a Sussex County mentality or a Warren County mentality. It is, we're so isolated up here. We're thought of as a completely different area, that we are never going to agree with Trenton. We are never going to be on the same page as the rest of the state, and we lose out for it. We lose out because of it. We don't get our fair share of funding in our areas because of it.
Yes.
So in other words, Jackie, you're saying that everyone in this room, including myself and the rest of us, are all a bunch of ignorant people.
Not intelligent.
Not intelligent. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
She did not say that.
Okay,
She did not
whatever.
say that. That's
That we're looked upon differently because we live in a rural area. I have never in my life ever felt that way living in Sussex County, and I've been here since 1957. And I hope to God my children aren't either, and I hope to God no one else is. I think it's a beautiful county to live in, and I think that's how people see us, that we have the honor of living in this county.
Yeah, Parker.
And as we talked the last time too, being referred to as a farmer, and I said I took some insult to it because we do represent, a large farming community between Warren and Sussex County. And also, as Gail said, calling your constituents, if you ever made the position, not intelligent, I think is sort of a slap in the face to the people that are out here that you're talking to, for one. And also the comparison too, which they've been trying to go with the coal rolling and the different things. The statement that I made the other night was that with the coal rolling, the pig crates, the different ones, the Democrats don't want to put up a bill to the floor where we can reduce property taxes and make things affordable here in the state of New Jersey. They want to play the smoke and mirrors game so they don't have to address the real issues in the state. Thank you.
Relative to this, first off, Jackie didn't say that we think, or she thinks, that anyone here is unintelligent or dumb or any other way. What she said is that the perception outside of this county is that up here, we're just rural people that just are doing our own thing, and we're not getting the representation equally that Hudson County or Jersey City or the rest, or Essex County gets. We have the same amount of people as they do, yet we don't get any of the same representation or any of the same respect. How many legislatures from the county have been up here? Our own governor did not even show up to the state fair this year because he was too busy, literally, doing fundraising, and he was right next door and he was supposed to show. So what did he say about, he doesn't care that much about the county?
I totally disagree with this, and with both of you on this. I believe that there is no one that looks on Sussex County or Warren County in that way. I believe that we have
just
a wonderful
oblivious, Gail,
county,
honestly.
and I have to say that I think sometimes you're saying that there's the same population in this county and Warren, the 11 municipalities in Warren and Mount Olive, that there is in the larger counties of Union, and that's not
No,
correct.
I didn't say that. I said the district. Gail, you have to listen.
No,
It's the
that's
district.
not
We have the
quite
same distribution of people in each district in this state. The 40 districts have the same distribution of people.
Well, and I disagree with you that we're looked down upon from being from Sussex County or Warren.
Well, I did have a follow-up question, and Ms. Staples, maybe you want to expand a bit more. I mean, in terms of who you're hearing this from, I mean, is this bipartisan? Is this Democrats? Is this Republicans? Is this insiders? Is this, I mean, who is saying this exactly?
Everyone.
I would like to hear some names, Rob. Is it good?
I've been outside of the county. I lived in Pennsylvania for 2 years. I have been outside of the county, and honestly, I've lived in Montague. I went to school in Port Jervis. Do you know what the people of Port Jervis think of the town of Montague? Not to mention what the people of the county think of the town of Port Jervis. It's a constant thing. This is, if you've ever left the county, if you've ever spoken with anyone outside of the county, you would know what other people think of us. And to say that people don't think that is just you being oblivious. That's ridiculous.
The only thing I would say, Jackie, maybe you should live someplace else if you're not proud to live up here like we are.
Been here my whole
That's
life.
not what we're saying. We love this area. We are really proud to be from this area. But you have to understand that if your mentality is stuck in this county and only in this county, and you're not represented in the state properly, you're not getting your voice heard because the others don't think you matter, that's what the issues are. And if you literally would get outside the county a little bit and go down in Jersey City or Newark, you might hear what they say. I mean, the joke goes around in Jersey City that the toothbrush was invented in Sussex County because they only have one tooth. And you have to argue with that fact because I raised my kids here.
Who in this room is concerned what Newark thinks about us? Raise your hand.
Well, I'm concerned what they think in Trenton because that's where our funding comes from. So honestly, if we're going to talk about, we're not getting our fair share because of what they think of us. And it has nothing to do with our representation, Parker. It has nothing, I'm not offending you personally. That's not my intention. My intention is to get it out there. We need someone that's going to stand up and fight for all of the residents of the district. We have the same number of residents in each district, like Mike said. Each of the districts in Hudson County have the same number of residents as the 24th district, but we don't receive our fair share.
Well, I guess I'll move on from this topic. It was interesting. Thank you. And Mr. Collins, you have an interesting campaign slogan: "Vote for Collins and nobody else." That's a first. I haven't heard one quite like that before. I guess the strategy is that you don't want to have the other Democrat votes cut into yours. One thing you've talked about in your campaign that is interesting, you've talked about the Highlands Act, which everybody tends to be very critical of in Sussex County, overall, not everybody, of course, but you've talked about a small water tax. And I was curious if you could expand a bit on that, and also if everybody else on stage might want to weigh in on that as well.
Absolutely. The major complaint that I've heard from people at the Highlands Council meetings is that their land values have been taken away, and nothing has been done to fund the Highlands Act and to make them whole for their losses. And I propose that we remedy that through a small water use tax, a very small water use tax. Residential homeowners who are paying for their water.
How small specifically, though?
It wouldn't amount to very much for the average homeowner. That would put the major burden on the large water consumers, businesses that are consuming a lot of water. And that's what the Highlands Act was meant to do, protect the water. And that's how we should pay the residents that are losing their value, by a small tax on water that would have a very minimal impact financially on homeowners and taxpayers. Just the big water consumers would be paying for this.
Okay. Yes. Did anybody else want to address that?
Well, I already, in our business, we already pay a dewatering permit. So we pay, not only do we have a dewatering permit, but we have to pay for we have a tax on the amount of water that comes out of our own ponds. So that's already in place, at least in my business. I don't know if you're talking about the areas that were supposed to benefit from this water.
I'm talking about a statewide fee for everyone.
Well, statewide, all of the water users have to pay, commercial users have to pay a dewatering permit, and we also pay taxes on it. It gets monitored.
And none of those funds are used to make people who have lost value through the Highlands Act whole again.
Okay. All right, if everybody's okay on that, we can move on to another question. Another big issue with many of our readers is state employee pensions, which is always a perpetually relevant topic in Trenton. You have some on one side arguing that the legislature needs to live up to the funding promises that were part of the 2011 law, and again, this is a question for Freeholder Phoebus. Republicans have had a task force that the governor convened that has a very alternative plan, talking about, using some features of a 401k and some other strategies as their alternative, and there continues to be a lot of back and forth on this issue. So now if you go to Trenton, where do you kind of come down looking at this issue of state employees and pension reform?
Well, I agree with you. The pension issue in New Jersey is a very complex issue. There's 7 individual pension systems. 2 of the pension systems are funded locally and 5 by the state of New Jersey. The 2 local systems are in the best shape, approaching 80%, which is extremely healthy for them. It's the 5 state systems that are in crisis right now. I believe that in working together with all parties involved to solve the pension crises is something that we really need to look at, and we really need to get together and put this out on the table. I believe we need to ensure that the independent contractors are removed from the pension system, hence the lobbyists, independent contractors, attorneys, engineers, they're in that system. They need to be removed out of that system. We need to re-examine budget priorities, shift spending towards the pension obligation, and decrease the actuality projected costs of this. The unfair liability could be funded over a longer period of time, just as you do a mortgage. If you owe $100,000, you don't have to pay the $100,000 tomorrow. You are able to pay it over 20 years or 25 years.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Staple?
That just sounds like kicking the can down the road. The tax plan that Mike and I had talked about, we had bounced around with the idea of, in the first year or so, not reducing property taxes in the whole, not reducing them by 50%, and using that amount of money to help make the pensions whole again. My mother's a member of the state pension system as a former county worker, and to think of her losing her pension, there's no way she'd be able to survive. There's no way that many of the people that rely on this pension would be able to make it. And forcing them to make more cuts is just absolutely ridiculous. The teachers have made so many cuts already. How much more can they stand until they don't have any benefits at all?
Yes, someone's please.
I'll just add on to what Gail said, too. There's definitely reform that we're working for. That's a big part of it. In 2014, we voted for the 4th highest pension payment that went into the system in a long time. Also, again, last year, we put a large amount into it. But one of the things, too, is that we have to realize that if you're going to if you're going to fully fund this pension system right out, you're going to have to raise sales tax, 12, 15% income tax. We're not in the position we're going to raise any more taxes or anything to increase the shift onto the people. So it's a long-term solution. It's going to take some time. We have remedies working on it, and Gail had mentioned a lot of them before. It's going to take time, but we have to stay on front of it, and we'll work it out.
Yes, Ms. Collins?
Yeah, I think that whatever obligations that the state has taken on need to be lived up to. And if pensions have been promised, they need to be paid, and we need to figure out how to finance them. And part of that, part of solving this going forward is reducing the pension burden going forward. There's a lot of double dipping going on, and we need to stop the double dipping, end it, make sure people who are double dipping are not allowed to double dip going forward. And there should be a cap on how much people can draw out of the pension fund. It shouldn't be unlimited the way it is right now, and people can get multiple, double dipping is ridiculous, and it's like an epidemic. And we also need to reform the tax code and make sure that it's funded differently.
Yes, Ms. Grace?
The tax plan that we're instituting covers all of that issue in it. In 5 years, the pensions are fully funded. At that point, the legislature could literally reduce taxes by the amount that they put into the school systems now by $8 billion. The other part that troubles me about the pension system is that in the last 4 years, we went from less than $80 million in commissions paid to $681 million in commissions paid to run the pension system. And I've worked on Wall Street a very long time. $681 million paid to the brokers who manage the pension system is amoral.
Okay. Unless anybody else had anything to add, we'll move back to the start and Assemblyman Space. You've been in office in Trenton since 2013, and you have a record, obviously. And I just wanted to ask you, and I'll phrase this so a question so everybody else can respond to it. Can you tell me 2 bills that you have sponsored that you're most proud of? And I guess for certainly 2 that he's had that you agree with, and perhaps for others on the stage, 2 that he's sponsored that you disagree with the most, and maybe open up the discussion there.
Yeah, that's why I brought a list of them that different ones for the Common Sense Shared Services, which was a pilot program that we had instated for municipalities to use workers between towns. I have a list which we can go down if you prefer.
Well, just the 2 that you most are proud of.
Well, I would say that, and probably a lot of it with the farming industry, which is just recently this last year, being that we're talking about farmers, so I'll switch over to those bills. With the bee industry, the farming industry came to us and asked if we could help them with a series of bills that would help them basically be, I guess you would say, like the right to farm, where a lot of times they weren't into that category where you can have raised bees in certain areas as if you have cows or you have sheep. The bees weren't included into it. Also with the honey production, I can dig them out. Well, he said there was 3 or 4 different ones that went through as a whole package for it to help the industry as pollinators for the state of New Jersey, because the big majority of the food that is grown in the state, crops are pollinated by the bee industry. So that was one of the things that they approached us on.
Okay, so those two bills are the ones when you look at it. Yeah.
We'll go with the bees for now,
sure.
for the farmers.
Okay. And I guess if anybody wants to respond, either certainly, bills that you've agreed with, 2 that you've agreed with the most, or 2 that perhaps you've disagreed with the most as you look at records and.
I'd definitely say I agree with both of those. Without bees, we don't have crops. Without farmers, we don't have food. And shared services, that's just, common sense shared services is the perfect way to put it. The more we share services, the more money we save across the board, so.
Yeah.
But also add on too, is besides the legislation that you push or you get through the legislature, which is Senator told me and Senator Littell told him too, a big part of, is not just pushing bills through the Assembly or the Senate, it's the constituent service, working with your people back and forth. If there's an issue, they should be able to contact you and you should be able to work with them. So besides pushing bills through, the big part of it is working with your community and your constituents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. And Mr. Grace, this was a study that just came out today from Rutgers Eagleton poll. It's a remarkable poll. It shows that 3 out of 4 state residents did not realize that we even have elections next week. Only 6% knew the Assembly is at the top of the ticket. Only half realized that Democrats control the legislature, and the findings went on and on. And I guess the challenge you and Ms. Staple have is that you're running in this very Republican district where Republicans have a 2-to-1 edge. So I'm curious, how do you phrase your arguments in a way that's going to connect with unaffiliated voters and Republicans and cut through the fact that I guess a lot of them are not as focused perhaps on this race as one might wish?
It's a very good question, because one of the things that has always been a problem in my estimation is the lack of education about our civic systems and how they work from elementary school through high school. We don't teach it very well anymore, and that's something that really should be done. We should have an understanding of how our government actually functions, and understanding that the people are actually the government. Getting our message across is basically presenting ideas that resonate with the residents of this county. The residents of this county are burdened beyond belief with property taxes, with business taxes, and the large money interests that have the ear of the governor and ear of the legislature are getting the breaks. Verizon and Pfizer made almost $200 billion last year and paid 0 in taxes. Whereas our small business entities up here are paying, because of the way they're structured, most of the time, they're paying as ordinary income. It's not fair. And we need someone down there who's willing to stand up and shout this to the rafters that we count.
Okay. Unless anybody wanted to add to that? Yes.
Well, I just want to state, as far as small businesses go, I mean, Gail and I have no more, you know, we have more experience in that than anybody, you know, setting up on this board would have. And one of the things, too, is that Gail likes to bring up, which is very true, is that we both have businesses that we can't pick up and move someplace else. So obviously, we're here fighting for the small businesses, keeping them here. And I just got an award the other day as a guardian of small business from the NFIB, which I went down to Summit, which I was very honored to have, so they could see with the voting record and what we fight for in Trenton. So it meant a lot.
Yes.
Back to your question, Michael and I have been going across and speaking with independents and Republicans, which is honestly the majority of the district. And every single person we speak with, we let them know about our tax plan. And honestly, that's the main issue this year. That's the main issue every year. That jobs, millennials want to know when the jobs are coming, when we're going to get good jobs in the district so they don't have to move to their college town. And that's something that was brought up 2 years ago. Susan Williams actually brought up, we need walkable communities, you know, and Gail has brought up the train. We need more to bring those people back. We need more so that way when our kids go away to college, they have something to come home to. Because if there are no jobs, there's no reason to come back.
Yes.
I find this so interesting, seeing how the Democrats have controlled the Assembly and the Senate and have stopped almost any kind of development in Sussex County and Warren County, either through Highlands or any kind of regulations. That Lackawanna cutoff train has been, I've been working on that with the 24th District. Since 1991, we've been trying to get this through. And each time we get closer where we think we can get this and we can get mass transit to Sussex County, we come up with another reason that the Department of Environmental Protection feels we have to meet. So I think that's I just don't agree with you.
Well,
Yes.
you know, I was 10 in 1991, so I couldn't have been working on the train that long. But again, Michael and I are not Democrats in Trenton. We're Democrats in Sussex County. And I can't speak to what, you know, Parker's colleagues do in Trenton as far as Democrats and them being in control of things. But one of the things that Parker had said at Ogdensburg was, if you have a good idea, they listen. So we need to come up with those good ideas. We've gone down and spoken with Speaker Prieto about our ideas. We've gone down and spoken with other members of legislation, other former governors, current, you know, tried to speak with the current governor. That didn't go so well. But, you know, we're down there trying to pitch our ideas, trying to get things done.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry, Mr. Grace.
Since 1991, Gail, you've had many Republican governors. You've had a Republican legislature at those times as well. In those whole times, they have ignored us up here. since I lived here in 1980, I moved up here since 85, the legislature, whether a Republican governor or a Democratic governor, has ignored us. That either means one of two things, that the ideas that are being presented by the people who represent us are not getting through, or they're just not good ideas. Either way, we're not getting results.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
The bulk of our problems with our environmental regulations for economic growth in this county came from a woman by the name of Lisa Jackson, who was under Corzine's rule. She made it so difficult, and those rules are still in place, and it's extremely difficult to develop in this area. So that's who that came from. Prior to her, it wasn't anywhere near as hard.
I haven't seen an economic development plan from our representatives, and the Highlands Act definitely does not address, it's not a panacea. Everybody wants clean drinking water. I don't want my water contaminated, and considering the fact that we mostly have wells up here, we would really like to, maintain that.
I did have a question.
But we need
That's not,
that-
the Highlands has nothing to do with this. We're talking other regulations.
I understand the other regulations. Highlands Act is part of that. We need to look at those and say they can't just apply to us. We have to make them work with us. Sustainable development is possible and it's profitable.
Yeah, just to clarify one point, when you talk about Lisa Jackson, is there a regulation in particular that you're talking about?
Well, one of them is the 300-foot buffer from a C1 stream. That really has caused a lot of issues. That's devalued a lot of people's property. That's one of them. The other one was she went ahead and removed, through her rule, they relooked at all of the different wastewater treatment areas, the sewer center areas, and they reduced them. Luckily, Sussex County was able to get quite a few of them back. But there's a lot of different regulations that she put in play with wetlands, stormwater runoff. It's the stormwater that's causing the problem with the Lackawanna cutoff right now.
Okay. I just wanted to move on with a question for Ms. Staple, and this is another issue that was raised by our readers, the Transportation Trust Fund, which pays for the roads and bridges, due to run out of money in June. Democrats have talked about the possibility of a gas tax. Republicans have not ruled it out necessarily, but they've tied in other things, taxes they'd like to see lowered as part of that deal. To question you, but also to everybody on the stage, we're about to run out of money on this. What plan would you recommend?
I have to actually diverge with Steve Sweeney on this. I don't agree that we should be raising the gas tax. Even a half a cent raising the gas tax disproportionately affects lower income people. And honestly, the gas prices are not going to always stay low. We know that. It's going to go back and forth. One of the things that I had proposed and Mike and I had discussed is we have to go through the budget line by line, see where cuts need to be made. We shouldn't have raided the Transportation Trust Fund in the first place, but again, that's already done. We need to see where cuts can be made, where we can fill in those gaps, where we don't need certain amenities for certain towns, where certain little pet projects can be cut. We need to go through line by line and get things done. I know it's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be something that Democrats in Trenton are going to want to do. But if all of a sudden they're getting calls from their constituents because the roads aren't paved, or the traffic lights aren't working, or bridges are crumbling, obviously, that's going to cause a bigger issue.
Clearly, with its failure, the Transportation Trust Fund is not working and needs to be reworked. It's not the right way to fund the repair and maintenance of our infrastructure, which is crumbling at a tremendous rate. New Jersey is a major shipping hub globally, and we have a major port facility, and a lot of goods are flown in to the state through the airports. And I would propose that we put a fee on all of those containers that pays for the infrastructure repair.
Yeah.
The one thing Jackie and I agree on, I guess, is with no gas tax. I also agree with that too, and along with Gail, because that's the one thing cheap in New Jersey we have, probably the only thing. So if we can keep it that way, that would be great. But as far as the Transportation Trust Fund goes, I think we got to look into it and see where all this money is going, because obviously we're throwing good money after bad when it costs 3 or 4 times as much per mile in the state of New Jersey to fix 1 mile of road as compared to other states. And also, we know where a lot of it's going is because it all stems back to overregulations, where every time a town or a municipality wants to do a road work of some sort, or the state, and there's so many hoops and planners and permits you have to go through constantly just to achieve the, before you even get a shovel in the ground, there's so many circles you have to run through. So that's one thing we have to alleviate, and also we have to find out where the majority of this money is going besides that.
When you talk about the regulations, and certainly Route 206 in Byram was and is a big issue, is there one regulation in particular that you're referencing that is a contributing factor you feel to this?
Well, I think it goes back before too, like with the highlands or the streams or every place you want to go, you have to have a permit for, and that's a big part of with the regulations. And I know back even with Hurricane Irene, when we had, a few years back, when we had so many roads and bridges, it was every project you wanted to do, you had to draw another permit for. It doesn't take, a whole lot of science to put a bridge up or go over, underneath a river or put a culvert in somewheres. But in today's regulations, like you said, that everything you do is a permit process.
Start with Mr. Collins.
This subject also brings into question campaign finance reform. A lot of these infrastructure projects are being awarded to companies who then turn around and their principals will donate a large sum of money to different campaigns. And that needs to end. We need to stop those sweetheart deals and all of that money being rolled back into campaign funding. That is absolutely wrong, and we need to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
I have two thoughts on the transportation fund. There should be absolutely, without any question, no gas tax increase. The loopholes that our major corporations received, Exxon should have settled for a lot more than $200 million when they were fined $8 billion. Things like, we have a lot of refineries in this state, and they could be used to help, they use our infrastructure, they should be helping to pay for it. Another thing that could be done would be a dividend. Corporations would be allowed on their profits to put into the transportation fund and in exchange get a reduction in their tax rate. So this way it would be a one-for-one exchange. And we need to make the transportation trust fund a true trust fund, one that can't be robbed by the legislature or the governor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, sure. The other things?
I agree with quite a bit that's been said here, especially with my running mate, Parker Space. But you've got to remember, in New Jersey, it costs $2 million a mile to do a road in New Jersey. The national average is 162,000 plus change. That's the national average to do a mile. Then the state's $2 million per mile is nearly 3 times the amount spent by the second place state, Massachusetts, which is $675,000 per mile, which ranks third in population density behind New Jersey. We really should demand an investigation into why it costs so much to do these roads.
Yeah. Okay, but I guess separate from the investigation, though, between now and July, when it runs out of money, though, what's the short-term strategy at this point? Yeah.
Close the loophole in the taxes for these gigantic corporations like Verizon and Pfizer and Exxon and ConocoPhillips, who have refineries here, and they're getting subsidized by our state because they pay political favors. And that's how it works, and they should not. And Gail actually is right. There is an awful lot of cronyism that goes on, and that's why our costs are so high. Mm-hmm. We have to eliminate those costs. We have to eliminate those loopholes. We have to start having good corporate citizens, because we are responsible as the citizens to making sure the infrastructure that they need for their employees and for their operations to work is in good shape. And they're basically taking from us and not giving anything back.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Collins, this is another question from New Jersey Herald readers. Actually, they had several questions on this topic. This was pertaining to guns and the Second Amendment. And now all of you have kind of clearly defined positions on this issue, so I want to kind of maybe phrase the question a little bit differently. For those of you who are generally supportive of the Second Amendment, I was curious if you have any examples of additional restrictions that you might support. And for those of you that are generally supportive of gun control, is there an example of a restriction that is out there that perhaps you would be open to supporting, just to kind of rephrase the question a bit differently?
Well, I support the Second Amendment. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was an ammunition sergeant in South Korea. And if you want to fire off an automatic weapon, I suggest that you go take an oath and join up. I would support legislation that bans gun shows. They attract unscrupulous individuals who sell guns illegally outside of the shows. I would also support legislation that controls licenses to sell guns, much like the state controls liquor licenses.
Yes, sir. Bill DeFeus?
I support the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner, I have 3 handguns, and I support the Second Amendment. That's it.
And also, with the endorsement from the NRA, for the both of us, you know, if you can see the voting record that I had, and Gail's going to have it also. We have so many, bills and, proposed legislation for right to carry, to keep the people safe in the state of New Jersey. So you should be able to carry if you want. That's what we stand by, as Gail said, the Second Amendment, so we're 100% behind it. The bigger, the better.
Okay, so basically, there are no additional restrictions that either of you would support on guns or gun
We
ownership?
have too many restrictions as it is now.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Mr. Grace?
Okay, I have 2 proposals. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment as it's written. As a political theorist, I understand how many times it took to get that bill in. But we should have a government solution and a free market solution, as far as I'm concerned. One, every car in the parking lot out here has a VIN number on it. Every gun should have a VIN number on it as well that you have to transfer when you sell. Now, that would be a government regulation where you can buy as many guns as you want. I have no problem with that. Own 100, own 1,000, but register them and have the VIN number on them. The second thing would be a free market solution. You must carry liability insurance. Because right now, if you had a heart attack at 40 years old, like my running mate's husband did, he can't get life insurance anymore because at the MIB, the Medical Information Bureau, has all those records. So if you want to weed out mental cases, people who are unstable, who should not be owning guns, the insurance industry does an amazingly good job at that. And it would make it prohibitively expensive for people that have conditions like that to own guns. They wouldn't be able to afford the insurance. And that would weed out an awful lot of the problems we have.
First up, Ms. Stable.
And I agree with Michael 100%, and I know Parker's saying, yeah, guns have serial numbers. Yes, they do. But with your car, you have to register your car every year. And we know where all the cars are. We know who the owners of every car is. And yes, you have to register your gun when you get it. What about 5 years from now? What about if you sell it at a gun show? Those type of things are where the issues come up. So,
You do have to register them if you sell them at a gun show.
but people don't. That's the
Well,
issue, and that's what Kenny's
Jackie,
talking
you
about.
got to enforce the law if that's what you're
Well,
talking
obviously.
about, but that's there.
There's nothing better than an unregistered gun, believe me. That way,
Does that mean you have them?
I'm saying is that way, when the liberals take over everything, they're not going to be able to track you down and take your weapons away from you.
Wow, that's extremely paranoid.
I just have to say that it's nobody's business whether or not I'm a gun owner. You
Right.
can all guess. And I think that as a community leader, bragging that you're a gun owner is absolutely irresponsible behavior.
And honestly, I know Parker and Gail are touting their NRA endorsement. Michael and I never received money. I know Kenny, well, you have the Sierra Club endorsement. We're not in anybody's pockets. We don't have any endorsements from any lobbying groups.
We didn't receive money from the NRA.
And I didn't receive any money from the Sierra Club either.
You get endorsements.
From lobbyists,
Obviously, you didn't get them.
Okay.
not from lobbyists.
Okay, unless anybody else to add on that topic. Again, that was another one of the issues raised by our readers, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk about it. And another question for Freeholder Phoebus. I'm not quite sure how we are on time, but, we've noticed a lot of the stories that we do, the United Way and some other groups, there is a lot of poverty, certainly, in Sussex County.
Yes, there is.
And I don't know if people are always as aware of that when people talk about the county, but there is quite a bit here. And I was curious if you could talk a bit about items on your platform and the others as well that are aimed at those who have perhaps lost their jobs or in foreclosure and have other perils that are related to their situation.
There is a lot of poverty in Sussex County, and it's very difficult. There's a lot of poverty with the seniors right now. I volunteer at the food bank. I also volunteered bagging groceries at ShopRite and witnessed how difficult it is for the seniors to exist here. We do not have enough affordable housing in Sussex County for our seniors. You know, everybody will panic. They'll say, oh, God, color. I'm not talking. We need affordable housing for our seniors. And the other problem we have in Sussex County is we do not have New Jersey Transit in Sussex County. So for our seniors to be able to stay in their homes and shop means that our bus, the Skylands bus line, must keep running. And it becomes more difficult because less funding comes out of the scatter tap money from Atlantic City. So we have to keep funding that. That's extremely important to us. And that also affects single parents. It's a very difficult county to live in if you are below the poverty level.
Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yes, Ms. Collins?
Yeah, my platform calls for an immediate increase in the minimum wage to $10 an hour and an annual increase each year for the following 5 years until it reaches $15 an hour. After that, it should be adjusted for inflation periodically. There's far too many people who are living below the poverty level while working, often at multiple low-wage part-time jobs. I know quite a few of them personally, and I would not support, however, raising the minimum wage beyond the inflation level. That would have a chilling effect on job creation and negative impacts on small businesses.
Ms. Brace?
Poverty is an absolute issue, and I too have volunteered at the food banks, Manor House, and at the churches to help out because of that situation. But the tax plan that Jackie and I are proposing increases the municipal budgets it doubles them, because there's no longer any money coming out of the municipal budgets into the school systems. It's all coming from the same pool. So municipal budgets would be increased by 100%. They would be doubled. 1. 2, if you reduce the small business taxes, the rural small business taxes up here by 50%, that money is not going offshore like it does with the big gigantic corporations like Verizon and Pfizer and so on and so forth. That money is going to stay here. They will hire more people. They will buy more equipment. They will go out to restaurants. It will energize our community. And that in turn is going to help the poverty level if people can get decent jobs because they don't have to pay so much in business taxes.
And
Just to clarify that, so you're talking about removing the property tax cap then as part of that, or?
Yeah, the property tax is going to be reduced by 50%. Right now, 75% of all the property taxes goes towards the school systems.
at least.
At least, 78 in Stillwater, but it's 75% on average. That leaves 25% of all the municipal monies capped into the municipal budget.
Okay, yeah.
Now, if I reduce it by 50%, they get, the balance of that goes back to the municipal budgets.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
That's simple math, Gal.
I don't know where else it would go.
That's the only thing I would question, is that we have hard facts on how to reduce property taxes with proven numbers that we run. I mean, you guys are kind of like all over the page each time you come out to present it. It's different.
No, it's the same plan, it has been the same plan that I've
Your property taxes are completely separate. Your municipal taxes are completely separate from your school taxes. Your municipal taxes, as your
They all
county
come from the
taxes,
same
has a
pool, Gal.
2% cap on them. Your municipal and your county taxes are completely separate from your school taxes. Yes, they're on the same tax bill, but when you do a tax appeal, you will find that your school does not pay any money to that tax appeal, but your municipal taxes do. And they're on a 2% cap.
Okay.
What I was going to say was, I agree with Michael 100%. We have 5.4% of our seniors are in poverty, and Gail mentioned we need more affordable housing for them. That's one of the issues that, honestly, selling the homestead really hurt us up here. We had a nursing home for seniors that were low income where they could go. We don't have that now. We are losing senior housing. We have senior housing that, there was a community, 55 and above, in Sparta. My father lived there. They changed it. That's what they seem to be doing. They're building all of these apartment complexes that start out as 55 and over. Once their time is up, they switch it and they accept anybody. It's not okay. We need more senior housing.
Okay, unless anybody else had anything to add on that, I guess we'll get to the closing statements. Again, I want to just thank everybody. I mean, this was really a great exchange of ideas on all sides. And I really appreciate you all taking the time to walk through all the issues that all of you are raising. And in terms of the format on the closing statements, I guess we'll go off the same order. I think, again, I'm not sure if I remember exactly, but we'll maybe start with
This way or reverse it this time, which doesn't matter.
I'm okay with going the same way unless you all have any objections. As a 1-minute close, and we'll start with Assemblyman Space.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and along with the New Jersey Herald, Rob, you did a good job, great job. Make sure the write-up's good on it. But as I said before, one of the reasons that I'm running again for my second term in the State Assembly is longevity. You know, with my family that's been here for so long in Sussex County, and, you know, our kids, we want to try to keep things affordable so we can see our grandkids grow up. Joel says they're going to be down the road a little ways, but at some point, yes, when we have grandkids. And well, Sussex County, Warren County, the district's a great place that we represent, and that's a lot of the hard work. You know, we're down there all the time in Trenton, you know, Senator Warhill and myself, and trying to make Sussex County a better place. That's one of the things that we're striving for. Gail's going to make a great addition to the team. So I thank you for your support and look for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Grace?
Thank you. I, too, want to thank the New Jersey Herald, and Rob, you did a great job tonight hosting this debate. Let me say that Jackie and I are not just placeholders for the Democrats on this ballot. We are offering solid, real, long-term solutions. Building a sustainable economy and society is not an impediment to growing business. I'll quote the Wharton School of Business for you from 2011. If building a sustainable enterprise was a fashionable trend 5 years ago, today it is a business imperative. And if done well, it is a true competitive advantage. I believe our institutions of government should be accountable, transparent, and sustainable. But for too long now, I believe our interests have not been represented in Trenton. And I say no more. I believe it's time that this district had representatives who offer real, solid, long-term solutions to the real everyday problems that the people of this district face. I have strong family ties here, and I wholeheartedly believe that they and the people of the district deserve a prosperous future, someone who will fight for them, and who understands that we are the government, and our voices count. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Dable?
Thank you. As I said, I was born and raised in Sussex County. I lived in almost every corner of the district. I want to thank my fellow panelists. You know, this is politics, and I think we had a really good exchange of ideas. And one of the things I want to remind everyone is Democrat, Republican, Green Party, we all want what's best for the district, and we just have different ways of getting there. So thank you.
Thank you all for this opportunity to change the conversation. Voters in our district finally have a choice. You could vote for the Republicans, but don't forget, they're the party that got us mired in a solar scandal that saddled taxpayers with $24 million worth of debt. $24 million, which they passed along to overburden taxpayers rather than paying for it with their future savings from renewable energy. It was a poor governance by Republicans that got us here. You could vote for the Democrats, but it's like choosing between Coke and Pepsi. If you don't drink soft drinks, you go thirsty. That's why I'm running, to give you a choice. If you keep drinking soft drinks all the time, it will make you sick. I offer you a healthy alternative, and there are no party bosses telling me what to do. When you go to the polls on Election Day, remember how sick our political system has become, and choose a greener path to prosperity. Vote for Collins and nobody else. Thank you.
Freeholder Phoebus?
I want to thank the New Jersey Herald for tonight, and I also want to thank all of you for attending this tonight. There's no party boss here. I am your employee. If you vote for me, you are my bosses, every one of you. And I promise you that I will go to Trenton and I will fight very hard, just as I have done as a freeholder, just as I have done in Andover Township, and just as I have done at Farmstead, sometimes with my family. So you're getting someone that believes in clean, ethical government, that believes in helping all of our constituents, has an open door, and will always be here for you, and will work extremely hard for you. So thank you, and go watch the the Mets game. My husband likes the Yankees.
Again, thanks so much for the debate and for everybody who showed up here tonight. And again, thank you again so much, Newton High School, for letting us have the space.
Yes,
so again, the election is next week. Thank you.